a lot of WWE is really fun, except there's like one like black cloud that hangs over the entire place, and that's the crazy man, and it just it just creates this environment where people aren't trying to do what's best.
I'm glad that we very randomly made this work. So thank you for making this happen.
I mean, is it random? Are the situations of the universe, are they random?
Oh wow!
I mean, I don't know.
We're getting right into it.
Well, look, you were in this place and I was in this place.
Yeah.
So in that sense, it wasn't random. We were just both here. So here we are.
But we didn't plan this, is what I'm saying.
No,
I didn't reach out to you and say, Jimmy, let's do this interview.
But planning, like, are you a planner?
With interviews, yeah.
Really? Okay, yeah.
Because I would like to do my research and know like these are the things we should talk about. Or
Should's a strong word, isn't it?
not talk about.
You can talk about whatever we want.
Well,
we can do whatever we want. That's the brilliance in life. Once you realize that there are no restrictions, there are no forces, there are no authorities greater than yourself, and once you realize you can do that, it's like, yeah, man, let's do it. Let's
Were
do
you
it right
always
now.
like this?
No.
What changed?
What changed? I went to rehab 2+ years ago, and it gave me the distance to and space to look at my life, to look at my wrestling career, my drug use, and just what I was doing. It's like we don't get that opportunity a lot. Like I think everybody should get to go to rehab, like whether you're a drug addict or not. I think you should be allowed, a pull in case of emergency, 30 days where nobody's allowed to talk to you, where you don't have a cell phone, where all you have to do is work on yourself. And
Wow.
And it was so great. And so it led me on this journey of like, all right, man, like the way I was living in so many ways, clearly here I am. I'm in rehab. Like clearly what I've been doing is not the way to live. So what is the way to live?
Well, what was the moment for you that you went, okay, I need to go to rehab?
I was going through a breakup because she broke up with me because the drug addiction and all this stuff, and I was trying to get clean by myself, and I was on the floor of my friend's apartment, just on my knees, just crying, and he goes, what are you thinking? And what I was thinking was, I'm gonna go get a fifth vodka, I'm gonna go to the strip club, I'm gonna find some heroin. And he goes, what are you thinking? And I go, I think I need to go to rehab. And I wasn't thinking that, it was just like, it flowed into my consciousness, into my brain, and that just began the steps of like, hey, yeah, I can't do this anymore. I can't keep living like I'm living. Like I give up. It was like a white flag. Like I give up. Like let's do it a different way.
Wow, that was your rock bottom, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it was the moment where I said, okay, I can't do it anymore. I can't do it the way I'm doing it.
Yeah.
The way I've been, this thing we all want to, live our lives, how our own way, play by my rules, and all that sort of thing. It's like that wasn't working for me. So I had to try to play by somebody else's rules for a while.
Rehab's not cheap, though.
No, it wasn't. Man, there's a whole story. So I just Googled, rehabs that took my insurance, right?
Okay.
And I called this guy, and he said, well, this would be out of
pocket.
No,
okay.
out
of network.
Out of network.
Yeah,
and he's like, you don't have that coverage then. I'm like, well, how much is it? He's like, well, it's $25,000. Like, I don't have $25,000, right? And so I just like hung up on him, right? After I gave him all my information and everything about me, and I was just like, man, I can't do it. And so then he calls me back. He's like, I think I figured something out. Do you want to do it? And I go, yeah, if we can do it, let's do it. And then all of a sudden my dad calls me, and I go, what the? So my dad calls me and goes, what's going on? We got this call from this guy. I gave him my dad's contact information, just call in case of emergency,
Sure.
my emergency contact. So this guy calls my dad and lays upon him the situation. I'm like, Dad, we don't need to do this. He's like, look, son, we're talking about a few $1,000s versus your life. Like we're this, it's fine. And if I was him, I'd been the same way. It's like, it's just money, because it is just money. Who cares about the money? Yes, it's money. You can do great things, but also who cares?
Yeah.
And so my dad did that for me, and it was brilliant, and it's awesome. It's great to have parents that would do that. Humiliating to be 33 years old and having your dad bail you out one more time, but I'm so grateful it happened.
But I'm sure your dad's going, at least this, at least I'm able to bail my son out.
Yeah, man. It's just so grateful that I had that not everybody has that safety net. Not everybody has a father that would do that or the ability to do that. So so grateful, and it brought me to where I am today, which is a great place.
So when you're in rehab, is it, is there certain books in there that you're reading that really opened your mind up to this?
Well, It was really just getting to the point where I just had to throw out everything I thought I knew. That's why I have this podcast called Jimmy Jacobs Doesn't Know, because it was just I had to go, look, maybe I don't know anything. All the ways I've been living, maybe I don't know at all. Because like these things that I thought were like these great pillars of my life, like this thing like follow your dream, and I go, what does that mean, follow your dream? Here I am working for WB, unhappy, surrounded by guys that are millionaires that are unhappy there. And I go, wait a minute. I spent all my life, climbing to the top of this mountain. Now I'm looking up there and I go, there's nothing up here, man. There's nothing at the top of this mountain. And you realize like, hey, the thing that's on the other side of your dream waiting for you, it's just you. That's it, man. That's what's waiting for you. And so if you think you're going to find this external thing to fix this internal problem, as they say, like, you're not going to do it, man. So I just had to, like, things like that, I just had to, like, wow, this thing I've based my life off of, it's like, it's nothing. And so what is it? And so, I read this book called The Tao of Pooh, which is a Taoism told through like stories about Winnie the Pooh. There's a book that's big in recovery circles called the Four Agreements, which was really good. Yeah, you've read that? Yeah, great. Yeah. So these sort of things, and it just started to bring me on this journey, and to Darren Brown and to Russell Brand and to Neil Strauss and all these guys that have started to lay this path for me.
Yeah, you've named some great authors in there, like Neil Strauss. Yeah. Are you looking to maybe write a book?
No.
Not yet.
No.
Okay.
No, I don't even know what the story is. You know what I mean? I don't even know what the story of my life is.
Are you still? So you're kind of still trying to figure things out, is what you're saying? I feel like in a way you found yourself.
Well, I'm circling right towards something that I would call the truth, which is weird to say, because I think it's very bold for somebody to say, like, this is true. It's like, yeah, how do you know that's true? I mean, really, how do you know anything is true? What, your perception? You're gonna trust that? Like, you're here and I'm here and these bricks are here? Like, yeah, how do you know that? Because your eyes are telling you? Because your hand is telling you? Like I'm not so sure about that. So it's like anything anybody says, no, this is true. It's like, I look at very suspiciously, but I think I've circled around something that's true, and I think it's amazing.
But I think we can look around us and say, you are sitting here in front of me, there are bricks here.
Well, your perception is telling you that, right? And like, so what, you're going to trust your perception? No, there's stuff that goes through your brain, and your brain spits it out a certain way, right? So you're not seeing what's there. You're seeing what's there as filtered through your brain, right? So, so who's to say that what we're seeing now is what it is, or if you come out here and let's say you're drunk and it's blurry, like is that what's real? Like, you don't know that consciousness is what's true. What's true consciousness? Psychedelics or something that have really changed my life, and you go, wait a minute, on these psychedelics, is this the consciousness that's reality, or is this the consciousness that's reality? And you go, wait, what is reality? It's just. It's what we see filtered through our brains. So
which psychedelics specifically have helped you out? Absolutely,
man. And which ones? I don't like to say it flippantly. Well, the first thing was, like LSD, man. It's the first time I took that, it was a handful of years ago now, probably 2015, was the first time I saw, like, wait a minute, things aren't what they seem. Wait a minute, things in society don't have to be this way. The way we're living, it's arbitrary. There are no rules to this. And because we start to think that we have to be a certain way, that things have to be a certain way. I have to have this job. I have to go to work. It's like, no, you don't have to anything, man. There's one thing you have to do, and that's die. Everything else, it's up to you, And so that was the first time I saw, okay, the world isn't what we think it is. And then you start going down that road more and more and more until you realize, like, okay, like nothing is what it is. Nothing is what it is. And it's like, wow, when you come to that realization that your experiences aren't your experiences. Your experiences are your perception of your experiences, which means your perception, which isn't necessarily correct, is, it's subjective.
So to kind of dumb this down for someone, two people could have the exact same experience, but then they might tell the story differently, afterwards?
Well, I mean, that's, I want to say something a little bit different. I mean,
okay.
We talk about storytelling. It's like, yeah, man, so as human beings, we have this proclivity for storytelling. Like, we tell stories through so many things.
Yeah, humans love telling stories.
Yes, and we tell these stories about ourselves. And that was one of the first things. Like, Darren Brown introduced this idea to me. It's like, we tell stories about ourselves, right? About your history. I can say, Jimmy Jacobs, scratched and crawled, and, his parents didn't support him. They wanted him to go to college and be a lawyer or a judge or whatever my dad was. And, he did it. He fought the world. It's like, yeah, maybe. That's a story. It's also a story like, hey, man, you grew up really well. Your parents took care of you really well, and they weren't exactly supportive of your career, but they were supportive in so many different ways. Like, no, you had a lot of help, too. And those are both true, which means they're both not true, which means the way you view yourself isn't true at all, actually. The way you view yourself, these stories you tell about yourself, it's made up, dude. It's all made up. The thing you are is made up. The thing I think I am is made up. Everybody, it's all made up. And once I started to realize that, the pillars started to fall. I go, wait a minute. This is made up about me, and this is made up. And this is made up, and this is made up. And this is made up. And it's like, so what's underneath that? What's underneath all these stories we're telling ourselves, these ways we identify ourselves that are just things we like?
But in the root of living life in America, it is a truth that we need to have a place to live. We need food to eat, right? So we probably need money to get those things.
No, not necessarily, right? If you want to survive, right, you need to eat, right? Mm-hmm. Generally speaking, I would say.
Sure.
But do you need money? No. I mean, do you have a family?
I do.
You do. Does your family love you?
Yes.
Hell yeah, man. That's great. Me too. I'm sure my parents would be like, oh, you want to come live with us? Absolutely. If my brother who's got, 5 daughters and a wife, if they were like, hey, mom and dad move in, yes, great. If you have friends that are probably like, oh yeah, Chris, come on in. Like, nothing has to be the way it is, man. This individualistic way that our culture is like, that's made up, dude. For years and years and years and years and years, for the evolution of our species, it was all communities, tribes, things that were close knit. This individualistic way we live in the United States, like this is so new. This is like 50 years new, the way things are going on now. So no, nothing is what it is.
So how does this all tie in to the career you have? I mean, we're backstage here at Impact Wrestling.
Yeah.
You're a writer and producer here.
Yes.
How does this all tie into that?
It ties into it because now I have a freedom from this business to enjoy this business, right? For so long, I felt like this is something I have to do. This was my dream. I owe it to my 13-year-old self to keep on going, and I've worked so hard for this. And the wrestling business had a hold on me. And all of a sudden, now it doesn't. Now it does. I do this because I enjoy it. I do it because hopefully it entertains people, and hopefully I can help the guys out backstage and help out with their careers. But the minute I don't enjoy coming to work, I'm not going into work, man. And I'll figure out what the next chapter of my life is. Like, it's fine. I can leave it all behind. I can just drop it and walk out the store. I don't care.
So do you have dreams for yourself now?
Well, that's the question, man. And I think that's the biggest thing in my life. It's like, okay, what's next?
Yeah.
Because you realize, okay, I can do whatever I want to do, man. This world is your playground, and you can go on whatever adventures you want. You can go whatever rides you want. You can make it whatever you want. You go, okay, great. Now what do you want? It's like, oh, I don't know. So really,
right.
the thing I'm trying to do now is, being open to the universe. You'd call it, like the universe or God or life or whatever. It's kind of like, what's life asking of me? Just keeping my ears open to, wait a minute, maybe this is the track to go down. Just being open to, you use the words like calling, that sort of thing.
Oh, okay.
It's fine.
We're all right?
Yeah.
Okay. You still are working in the ring, too.
Yeah, man. I love performing.
Yeah.
That's great, man. It's great to get out there. I get to play, dude. Somebody pays me to play. Just like you. Are you getting paid for this?
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
You get paid to play.
Well, I mean,
great.
I hope so. If people are watching this, then,
Great,
they will.
man. Like, what a cool gig.
That's always been my thing. Is my definition of success has always been if I can be excited for what I'm doing at the start of the day and proud at the end of the day, that
great.
I did it.
I love that.
You can borrow that.
That's a nice way to live.
Because I think there's too many people that can't even enjoy Sunday because they know Monday's the next day and they got to go to a job that they hate.
Dreading it,
Yeah.
and that's no way to live. And you don't have to live that way. Nobody does, which is great.
Well, and we now live in a world now where, you're able to create opportunities for yourself.
Absolutely.
That didn't exist, when you had to be a farmer or whatever, You basically had to do what you did to put food on the table, provide for your family.
Yeah, I mean, to an extent, I'm big on language. So you say, like, had to. It's like, does anybody have to? What does anybody have to do? When somebody says I have to go to work, it's like, do you have to? No, you can choose not to. You can not get that money, and there's consequences for that, but you don't have to. And there's other ways to get money, and there's other ways to get your needs met. Like I said, families, communities, all these sort of things, like these alternative ways of living that you just brush off. Like no, it needs to be like this. Nothing needs to be what it needs to be because nothing is what it is.
There is so much more to you than I think people would ever see if they watched a Jimmy Jacobs match. And we're scratching the surface a little bit here.
Yeah.
But your podcast really dives into this.
It does, man. It's called Jimmy Jacobs Doesn't Know. And man, this is what I just talked to people about this. Like, I'm like, hey man, I've been on this planet for 35 years. How old are you?
36.
36. So it's like, hey, basically it's like, hey, in your 36 years, like, what have you figured out?
Yeah.
It's about, the existential nature of things and the like how to live too, like the functionality of like what's the best way to live. It's like what is life and how should we live it? So it's kind of both those things. And so it's good. I talk to different people, some wrestlers, some non-wrestlers, but basically like, hey man, like how have you made it through life? Like what do you think this is about? Oh, you're a comedian. Oh, is that because when you were a child you felt you needed to be funny to get love from your parents? Is that and you go down that rabbit hole of like how you became who you are, who you think you are, all that stuff.
It's interesting hearing these existentialist takes from Tommy Dreamer, Sami Zayn, Zach Gowen.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody has a story to tell.
Absolutely.
But when you talk to a wrestler, not just about wrestling, it's very fascinating to see what happens.
Yeah, you don't know, and sometimes I feel like I'm fighting this uphill battle as far as like getting listeners or viewers, because like like I have a wrestling audience. The people that are into Jimmy Jacobs are into wrestling, so it'd probably be a little more popular if I watched Raw every week and gave my inside knowledge of the booking and the writing and where it's going and why might they do this and why they would do that, and or talk to wrestlers about wrestling, about for whatever I do, the creative process is what I know in wrestling. So it's like, yeah, man, there's probably a lot of people that want to hear that, but instead I'm going like, hey, what's the nature of our existence? Do you think? Do you think the self is created or discovered? Which one? It could be one or the other. Which one is it?
But it may end up evolving into something else.
Dude, that's why I did it. It was like, okay, I want to do something other than wrestling. I don't think this is the thing, but maybe this is the thing that leads me to the thing that leads me to the thing. That's what I think.
Anyone watching this right now or listening to it on my podcast, we're going to make the audio version available. They are now aware of your podcast.
Great.
Jimmy Jacobs doesn't know.
Awareness is the first thing in making any sort of change in your life. It's awareness. First, you got to be aware of it, right?
Are you still watching Raw?
No.
At all?
No. The only wrestling I watch is Impact Wrestling. And that's because like. Part of it is, dude, I'm not obsessed with wrestling anymore. I've got a healthy relationship with it because, like, I lean into the things I like about it, and I back off the things that I don't. So it's like, yeah, I don't want to watch wrestling every week. That doesn't bring enjoyment into my life. So great, it's done. I feel no obligation to watch it.
What do you do with that time?
What do I do with my time?
With that time that you would have spent,
Yeah, I mean, dude, I'm reading a lot of books.
Okay.
That's a thing. I listen to different podcasts, different interviews. I mean, the thing I'm doing on my podcast is basically what I do every day in my life.
Okay. Who's really inspiring you in terms of authors or podcasts?
I mean, Russell Brand was, his book Recovery really reshaped the frame in which I saw recovery in, which was really it was life changing, nothing short of life changing. And even I heard Russell Brand on Pete Holmes' podcast, and Pete Holmes has basically gone through the exact same thing I've gone through. So all his stuff, you know Pete Holmes, he's a comedian, right? Yeah. But all his stuff is like super like spiritual, I guess you would call it, because he's basically gone through the exact same thing I've gone through. And I read his book and I go, great, this is a person. This is the first time somebody's put to words the way that I feel, put to words what I've gone through and what I've experienced. I'm like, yes, it's this same thing, yes. So yeah, it's great.
So that's what you're doing instead of watching wrestling?
Absolutely, yeah.
And you're happy to not be working at WWE?
Dude, I'm so grateful that I don't work for WWE. It's nothing against WWE. I'm so grateful for the time I had there, man. It was life changing. It changed my life and brought me in the path that I'm on now, and has allowed me to work here and to be somebody that they reached out to come and help them out. It's like great. WWE was such an integral part of the journey that I'm on right now. So it's great. But yeah, man, I don't miss that place even for a second.
It's just crazy, from the outside looking in, that it was a photo that basically led to your demise there, which is, it seems so innocent.
Well, I mean, when I did it, I knew it might make some people upset. But at that point in my life, I didn't care. I wasn't trying to not get fired anymore, because for so long I was there just trying to not get fired. Oh my God, they might fire me. Oh my God, they might fire me. At that point, I was like, yeah, I don't care. You know what? From now on, they have Jimmy Jacobs, and what comes with that is whatever comes with Jimmy Jacobs, whatever comes with this character that I've created in life for myself, and with all the whatever eccentricities or whatever people might say about it. Those are great, and that's it. And so I think Vince had a problem with that in general. Because, whatever, I wear a suit and tie, but my tie's pink. And it's like, God, he dresses so gimmicky. It's like stuff like that. Like, I can't please the crazy man. So I think when I don't know how I got fired exactly, but I'm guessing it got brought to his attention, and he just took it as this sign of, okay, here's this guy. He's just trying to get himself over again. He's out. Which they did for me what I could have never done for myself. I would have stayed there another 10 years and been miserable and hated life, just like most of the other writers there. I don't want to speak for them, but there's a lot of unhappiness there. So they did that for me, man. I was blessed with that being fired.
Is this a happier work environment for you here?
I mean, happy's a funny word. What is happiness?
I don't know what words to use with
right,
you.
I know. Well, because you have to think about this. Like, okay, what is happy? Like, happiness seems like an emotion. Like, what kind of emotion? Well, it's joyous, but it's fleeting, right? So happy, it's like, am I happy here all the time? No, you're not happy, but do I get fulfillment out of it? Yes. Is it a healthy work environment? Yes. Do I have nice communications with my bosses? Yes. Do they respect me? Yes. Does the talent respect me? Yes. Do I feel free to contribute in the way that I'm able to contribute, to be my best self, to let my talent shine through? Yes.
Well, I only said happy because you said unhappy about the other situation. So
right.
I figured that would be the opposite here.
Right. Yeah. It was not. It just wasn't a healthy situation for me. I found, I don't want to speak for anybody again, but generally speaking, people in WWE it does not seem to be a work environment like conducive to people's feeling good or enjoying themselves. It breeds a lot of insecurity, a lot of discontentment. A lot.
You probably just had a lot of free time after you got let go.
Hey, not really, man.
Really?
Well, I mean, especially when I first got fired, there was this like hot 15 minutes where I was like really in demand, which was like really fun. It was so much fun. Man, I got fired, and like a month later, I'm like, God, this is awesome. Why didn't getting fired for running an angle with the Young Bucks was a great idea, right? And so yeah, man. But I keep pretty busy, and I keep pretty busy at Impact, man. I just came off of, we had like 3 days of creative in Canada, and flew right here for 3 days, and I'll go home and I'll start working on the scripts for the shows when we go to Mexico in a couple weeks. And so, yeah, man, I stay busy enough, but like I still have time to do what it is that I do.
I think there still are a lot of fans though that go, there's a full-on script for the shows I'm watching. Like, I think people are really surprised by that.
Yeah, guys. Wrestling's fake, and then
people know that, but they just figured. Like, I think a lot of people from the outside looking in think it's like, okay, you're gonna beat him, and this is the finish.
Yeah, no. See, a lot of thought is put into the stories and what the angles are, and putting it all together. It's a lot of pieces you got to move around and put into play. It's kind of like a Rubik's Cube. You put it together, you move one thing, and everything else moves around. You're trying to write a lot of weeks of TV, so you're trying to create continuity between this and this and this. And what's this guy doing? You got to make this guy strong. Got to keep this guy hot. Got to all this sort of stuff, and you just try to do it the best you can. And It's fun. It's challenging.
Well, the first interview I did with or the most recent interview I did with Chris Jericho, he gave you a lot of credit.
Yeah, man.
For the list.
Yeah, man. I came up with that.
Yeah. Is there anything else that that you were super proud of in WWE?
I mean, the stuff with Kevin and Owens and Chris Jericho was
the best friend stuff.
Yeah, that was the crowning stuff of my time there, doing all that with them, coming up with the list of Jericho, whatever involvement I had in writing the Festival of Friendship, that day it was like, yes, like the culmination of this thing we did, and like, yeah, man, like that's cool, dude. Like a lot of it's cool. A lot of WWE is really fun, except there's like one like black cloud that hangs over the entire place, and that's the crazy man. And it just it just creates this environment where people aren't trying to do what's best. They're not trying to come up with the best segment or have the best match, do the most creative thing or the thing that's best for the fans. It's just like, what's the crazy man not going to yell at me about? And that's it, man. That ain't no way to run that place. So he can bring in Paul Heyman and Eric Bischoff and whoever he wants, Bill Watts and whatever bookers from the past. He can move all these pieces around, dude.
Yeah.
But as long as this piece is on the board, the game is going to get played the same, man.
I feel like Raw has changed a little bit over the last few weeks.
I
don't know if that's Heyman's influence or not.
So, I mean, Vince, I'll say this, man. His feet are starting to get up against the fire. You know, AEW a little bit, but more like ratings are going down, and they're about to go on Fox. And if the way things keep, trending the way they're trending, they're going to get murdered on Fox. And that was a big, big money deal. So I could see him doing some things that he wouldn't normally do otherwise because there's some pressure on him. And this isn't to say all of Vince is bad, because man, if you blame the guy for everything that's bad, you got to give him credit for everything that's good.
For sure.
He built this empire.
Yeah.
There's so many things. Anytime you see something good on TV, you got to go like Vince let that happen.
Yeah.
Maybe he wasn't the one that said, "Hey, make it happen," but he at least allowed it to happen. So you have to give him his due in that.
Oh, and I think that there's a lot of recency bias here. It's tough or it's easy to see the bad things that are going on now, and easy to forget the bad things that happened 20 years ago.
Yeah.
People look at the Attitude Era and go, "It was the best." Well, Naked Midian was also running around back then.
Yeah, a lot of bad stuff.
And Mae Young gave birth to a hand, and a lot of other stuff. But it's easy to go, yeah, but Stone Cold and The Rock and Undertaker and Triple H and all that stuff was really good, and it was really good.
It was.
But there was also some stuff that wasn't very good.
Yep. But hot time in the business, and it took balls to make that happen. And Vince has tried to make the product so I don't know if they're sterile, to get sponsorships and all that sort of stuff. And it worked really hard, and you got to commend him for that. But also. He's just got his grip on things, man. He likes to micromanage things. And look, it's his show. He gets to do that. I'm not saying it's like, oh, this is wrong, this is an injustice. Like, no, man. Once you have $1 billion, you can do your show however you want.
Right.
That's what my mantra in life is. Not my show, dude. If it was my show, this is how we do it. But you know what?
Yeah.
It's not my show. So we'll, all I can do is give my suggestions. All I can do is do the best I can do. But everything else, man, outside of this bubble, it's out of my control, man. That ain't my show out there.
If we circle back to what you were saying earlier, talking about how you're kind of circling towards a truth now. What is that truth?
What is the truth?
Yeah.
It's something like, it's something like, none of us are who we think we are. What we are is the awareness inside of us, the thing that they're seeing out of our eyes. The rest of it is just kind of a character we've created, or preferences that the bodies we live in have. We're kind of basically all in these spacesuits, more or less. The same thing, but we're the same thing. Like you and I are the same thing. We're consciousness. We're awareness. Just like Willie Mack over there and Johnny Yuma over there. Like we're the same thing. And so you look like, okay, it's not different. It's all the same. And there's more to it. There's something else. There's another thing. It's like there's something with a shared consciousness or something, this great mystery that one would call God or the universe or life or truth or love, that sort of encompasses everything. But I can say for certain what I know. There's one thing I know right now. There's one because there's one thing to know, because everything else is, like I said, it's just your perception of things. So the only thing I know is I have perception. That's it. I have awareness. I have consciousness. That's all I can say for certain, which is good. It's good to have like one thing I go, okay, this is for certain. Everything else, who knows?
Yeah.
But for certain, like I have the consciousness. I have this thing, the same thing that you have. I think so far as you exist, so far as I can tell you exist, right?
I guess so.
So that's cool. It's a good. I mean, I want to say starting place, new starting place, to wipe out and I didn't expect to get there, man. And that's the weird thing about this, right? We have these identities for ourselves, and I didn't expect to lose mine. I didn't expect to go into a journey and go, wait a minute, I'm not this, and I'm not this, and this is made up, and if I'm not this, I'm not this. And this belief I had, well, it's just a belief, which means it's not even true.
Right.
And this is gone, and this is all these things that I thought I was, and I realized, like, no, I'm just, playing a character. These are just things I happen to identify myself
Right.
as that aren't real things. That they're stories.
Yeah.
And all
Yeah.
and all these stories are subjective. And I go, what the hell is underneath it all? I go,
Yeah.
oh, consciousness. That's what's underneath it all.
On a very surface level, I do that with a lot of people that are like, I could never hit the dance floor. I'm like, well, of course you could.
Yes, of
You're choosing not
Yes,
to.
and that's
I could
everything.
never have a YouTube channel like yours. Yes, you could, because I'm doing it, and you could do it.
Yeah, man.
And I think way too many people have limiting beliefs.
Absolutely, of course. Well, any belief is limiting because any belief. There's like I was thinking about the term false belief the other day, and I go, a false belief, that's a bit redundant because any
belief.
any belief
Yeah.
any belief is malleable. You can believe anything you want. So these ways we define ourselves that hold us into these boxes. For a long time, I'm an emotional guy, right? That was me. I'm just an emotional guy. I'm just an emotional guy. So that gave justification for acting however I wanted. Like, oh yeah, my emotions, I just go where the wind takes me, however I want. And I go, wait a minute, no, that's just a habit that I've gotten into, that I haven't learned to manage my emotions, and now I'm working on that, and now I'm better at that, and all of a sudden, oh, I'm not an emotional guy. Oh, how about that? So this thing that I thought I was, I wasn't.
Yeah.
So we all think, well, I'm just impatient. Like, no, you're not. You're not impatient. You're choosing to be impatient.
Yes.
And you work on patience. And all of a sudden, okay, now I'm a
Yes.
patient guy. So if you could be an impatient guy or a patient guy, and anywhere in between, it's like, okay, so that's not you, because that's, it's like what's you at your core. Well, if that can change, or that can change, that's not you, is it? That's you can take that off. That's not you. That's
I like
not
this
you.
noise.
Yeah.
You should make a shirt that makes that noise.
That's what happened, man. Like it happened. It happened with me when this girl. I was talking to this girl, and she goes, Chris, you're so wise. And I go, yes, I am. And I'm just all of a sudden I'm transported back to being like 3, 4, 5, 6 years old. And I have one older brother who was kind of wild, so he got attention. But me, I got attention when I was smart. And when you're young, you equate attention with love. And here I am, 30 years later, still doing the same thing. Jimmy Jacobs is a genius. Yes, I'm a genius. Still doing the same thing, playing this character of somebody who's smart because it was a survival tactic I had as a child. So it's like, wait a minute, I'm not a smart guy. I'm playing a character of somebody who's smart. I've used it as a coping mechanism. So it's like, I'm not my coping mechanisms. I know that. So that's not me. And I go, wait a minute, if I'm not my intelligence, I'm not my creativity, which means I'm not my career, which means, oh my gosh, what is so? And I thought I was an emotional guy, but I'm not emotional. So, and you just keep going down, and it's like, what the fuck? What's here?
Yeah.
What's underneath here? And to find that what it is, it's like, oh, it's cool.
Look, I want to be respectful of your time because I know you were getting called away here.
It's fine. Everybody live until they don't.
Will they?
Until they don't, man. Right? That's all of us.
I'm very interested to see what everyone takes out of this.
Yeah.
Because I've taken a lot out of this. I hope that this has been good for you too.
Yeah, man. I enjoy jamming about this sort of stuff.
This is great.
Yeah, this is where I'm at now.
Well, your podcast, we'll mention it again.
Yeah,
Jimmy
man.
Jacobs Doesn't Know.
Yeah, dude.
Available wherever you're listening to this podcast, if you're listening to this in audio version. If you're watching this on YouTube, we'll drop a link below here so you can check that out. I appreciate this.
Hey, man, thanks so much, dude.
I didn't know what to expect.
Here it is. You never know what to expect out of life, and that's the beauty of it, dude.
Here it is.
It's this crazy wild ride, and we get to be on it, dude, and that's awesome. That's what I love.
That is awesome. Thank you so much for checking out this chat with Jimmy Jacobs. Please click subscribe. Wow, there it is right there. So you can be notified about more awesome wrestling interviews like this one here. Didn't plan that at all with Jimmy Jacobs. I was chatting with him backstage at the Impact Wrestling show in Hollywood, California. We got to talking. I said, I'd love to do an interview with you sometime. And then we talked a little bit more. And I said, you know what? Let's just do it right now. I will grab my microphones and let's do it right now. And there it was. Great conversation. A lot to unpack there, both about the wrestling world, also the existentialist stuff that we were talking about there. Great book recommendation. The Four Agreements, absolutely life-changing book that I've read more than once. And I recommend that if you're looking for a book to read, you can check that one out as well. I don't know if we hit on it enough during the interview, but Jimmy Jacobs has a podcast called Jimmy Jacobs Doesn't Know. I also have a podcast with the very original name, The Chris Van Vliet Show. So if you don't feel like watching these interviews, if you don't feel like staring at me and my guests like Jimmy Jacobs for 33 minutes or whatever this one was, you can listen to the audio version of these interviews. They're all available now wherever you like to listen to your podcast. I will put a link below for that.
I will also put a link below for Jimmy Jacobs Doesn't Know, so you can check out both of our podcasts separately, of course. You can check out both of our podcasts separately. I flew out to California last weekend for the Impact Wrestling show. You saw my interview with Brian Cage. If not, I'll link it up down here. Jimmy Jacobs also talked to Ethan Page, who's one half of the Impact Wrestling Tag Team Champions. And I talked to Brian Cage's wife, Melissa Santos, better known as the Lucha Underground ring announcer, also known as the Impact Wrestling backstage interviewer. Those two interviews, Ethan Page and Melissa Santos, will be on the way in just a few days. Well, depending on when you're watching this, but it'll be on the way on the channel in the next couple days. Guys, we are so close to 200,000 subscribers. I mean, look what's over my shoulder here. That was just last August that we hit 100,000 subscribers. It was almost 365 days ago to the day. And here we are 12 months later, and we're going to double that. So honestly, I have to thank you so much. I couldn't do this without you. I appreciate your support from one wrestling fan, me, to another wrestling fan, you. Thank you. Times a million or times 200,000. You're so awesome. I appreciate the support, and let's keep this going.